Oh, you feel
Calling to order the zoning board meeting, Raritan Township, regular meeting, November 2nd, 2023. I'm talking. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act have been satisfied by the placing of a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board at the municipal building, filing same with the township clerk, and transmitting same to the Herndon County Democrat, the Courier News, the Star Ledger, and the Trenton Times.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, we're trying to get control here.
No problem. I agree with you.
Obviously, Roger has let things go astray here. Okay, roll call, please.
Chairman, Mr. Roger Aaron's, he is asked to be excused. Vice Chair, Ms. Cynthia Schaefer.
Here.
Mr. Steve Farcio, he is asked to be excused. Mr. Randy Block,
Here.
Mr. Jim Ferrero, Vice Chair Pro Tem, Mr. Rasul Damji.
Yeah.
Ms. Lindsay Cool Brengel. Board Professionals, Township Planner, Mr. Jeffrey Vaccarella.
Here.
Board Attorney, Mr. John Drill.
Here, and everyone else, other than Taylor, who's also here, everyone else is excused.
And
Other than
Jackie.
Our court reporter who's here.
Okay, can I get a motion for Roger and Steve to be excused?
Jim Ferraro, make the motion. Excuse me.
I second it, Randy Block.
Vice Chair, Ms. Cynthia Schaefer.
Yes.
Mr. Randy Block.
Yes.
Mr. Jim Ferrero.
Yes, here.
Vice Chair Pro Tem, Ms. Rasul Damji.
Yes.
Ms. Lindsay Cool Brendel. Yes.
Okay. No comments, no announcements, no,
I have a comment.
Oh.
This is kind of a question for Jeff and Taylor. So I'm looking at the roll call, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regular members and 1 alternate, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, and how many should we have?
7.
We should have 7 regular members and 2 alternates.
Correct.
Okay, so
Correct.
can we list, there's also, we're missing, we have
member.
a vacancy for a regular member. Can we add that on there?
Yes, sir.
And maybe we can ask Roger to call the mayor, and not that it's any of my business, but maybe it should be a regular member and go with 2 alternates.
Yes.
But can you talk to Roger?
okay. Moving on, no announcements, no distributions or correspondence, and no meeting minutes. And no resolutions. So we have 3 applicants tonight. We have 2 letters. Do you want to go with those first, John?
Yeah.
And then, okay. So the first one is Board Adjustment Case Number 08-2023. The applicant is Hunter Storage, Lot Block 63.01, Lot 13, 177, Highway 202, 31 South, for a D variance for outdoor vehicle storage. Would you like me to read the letter into?
Yeah, I think you should read it into the record, yeah.
Okay. Letter from Steve Gurenberg, dated November 2nd, 2023. Dear Taylor, this letter will confirm that the public hearing on the above application is being carried to the board's meeting on January 4th, 2024. In order for the application to be heard by a full compliant of the board.
It needs full complement.
Oh, I'm sorry, complement of the board. We would ask that an announcement be made at the start of the meeting tonight that the public hearing is being carried by the board without the need for further notice by the applicant. Please also accept this letter as my client's grant of an extension of the time to the board until March 4th, 2024, for the board to act on this application. Thank you.
Yeah.
Steve Gurenberg.
I have a comment to make on this. First, 2 comments. First, no applicant is entitled to a full complement of the board. He's asking for 7 members. So not only is no applicant entitled to a full complement, but on Hunter and Storage, the problem is going to be that we're going to have two members who are going to be, well, actually, we're going to have
I thought it was just,
one member.
yeah,
It's just Roger who's going to be recusing himself. So under the best circumstances, now, they are asking to be adjourned until January 4th. So theoretically, right, there could be a new member and another alternate appointed by them, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
Okay, but theoretically there could be. But let's assume that we don't get any new personnel. So in the best case, now, when is Steve Barcio coming back?
he said after tonight, he should be able to attend the
Okay.
rest of the meetings.
So if Roger recuses, there'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and with Lindsay, 6.
Mhm.
Steve looking for 7. You can't, there's a borrowing provision in the MLUL where the BOA can borrow from the planning board, and there's another borrowing provision where the planning board can borrow from the BOA if there's no quorum because of conflicts of interest, not because someone's on vacation, not because someone can't attend, but the borrowing provision specifically says that you can only borrow up to the amount of members you need for the quorum. So I want to read this just to make people aware of it, because I had to make Steve aware of it if he wasn't aware of it. Of course, can't find it right now. Ah. 40:55D-69.1. If the zoning board of adjustment lacks a quorum because any of its regular or alternate members is prohibited by section 69, which is the conflict section,
Mhm.
from acting on a matter due to their personal or financial interest, class 4 members of the planning board, so not class 1, the mayor, not class 2, public official, not class 3, the governing body member, class 4, regular citizen members of the planning board shall be called upon to serve, for that matter only, as temporary members of the Board of Adjustment. The class 4 members of the planning board shall be called upon to serve in the order of seniority until there are a minimum number of members necessary to constitute a quorum to act upon that matter. So, Steve wants a full complement. You can't get a full complement. That's number 1. Number 2,
Mhm.
and I don't think this is a problem in this case, but Taylor asked for an extension 4 months out. He gave an extension of 2 months out. Okay, it's still an extension. But he also asks that he not have to renotice. Now, unlike Miller, where I'm going to say no problem, because he's asking that to be continued to December. But you guys have a board rule that says the most recent tax assessor's list. Your rule says 4 months or 6 months.
It doesn't have a limit.
Yeah, it does. In the rules, it says how long it is, but whether it's 4 months or 6 months, since he's asking to be carried, right now, it's November,
Mhm.
okay? It's November 2, December, January. That's going to be carried 2 months, but it's into the new year. And it's up to you. If you want to say, yeah, we're going to carry it, no need for further notice, you ask me, yeah, you have discretion to do that. But if you wanted to say, yeah, it's going into the new year, and people are going to forget, I mean, there's no one here tonight. Was this the first hearing on the matter?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay, and we checked the notice.
yes.
So you could say, look, no one's here. This is the first hearing. If no one's here, and making them notice again is just going to be a waste. But you guys should at least discuss it and decide if you want to grant the adjournment. But it should be made clear that he's not entitled to a compliment.
What's the benefit of this, either way?
Well, the benefit to him not having to notice is it saves money. I mean, it costs money to notice.
Okay.
if it was gonna be, if this wasn't the first hearing, right? If this was like the second or third hearing, and it was, and they were seeking another extension, maybe people in the public that were here forget about it, so then I'd say you should have them renotice. First hearing, second notice. If you ask me, do I think there should be a renotice? No, but it should be my decision, and it shouldn't just be whatever he asks. You should look at what he's asking and make sure you're all right.
What is your suggestion?
My suggestion is to
Like-
give him everything he wants,
Mhm.
except have Taylor tell him that he's not entitled to a full complement.
Absolutely.
All he's entitled to is the bare.
Minimum. Yeah.
Okay.
So even the extension is okay till March?
Yeah, listen,
Yeah, first.
4 months would have been better. Taylor is very smart. Yes. 2 months, listen, if we know of some problem, we'll ask for another extension.
Yeah, I only asked for March because we did it with 2 other applications that he's had. So
Yeah.
why not just do it
Yeah.
all the way?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
who knew something like this was going to happen tonight?
I'm fine with that.
Put
And
it this way, since you're the acting chair, make a ruling. It's the board's preliminary ruling, and if no one overrules you, that's the ruling of the board. Let's want to both you first.
okay, I'll make the ruling that,
John, is that a legitimate request? In reality,
Yeah, listen, Jim, there's 5 people up here tonight. We told him that.
yeah,
We didn't want him to have to come, then see 5 people. It's totally reasonable if they need a minimum of 5 votes for a D variance to want more than 5.
5, yeah,
Okay? He just didn't, either didn't realize or he wasn't, I don't think he realized that one person
can't,
had to recuse. And you can't borrow more than up to a quorum, and you're not gonna need borrowing in this application unless someone else has a comment.
right.
So the most he could get in this application, unless
We,
a new member
Yeah.
and a new alternate are appointed, the most he could get is 6.
He wasn't aware of this until I told him about the Miller application.
Yeah, and the Miller application, he has a bigger.
he's got a
Yeah.
bigger problem, yeah, okay.
So, Jim, in my opinion, this is a reasonable request, knowing there's only 5. Don't get more.
I was gonna ask.
When you start the clock.
Okay. So unless anybody has an objection, I'm okay with letting them know they don't have to renotice.
Right, and
And also to have Taylor inform him that he will not get the full
compliment. Unless there-
compliment,
Unless there's new board members appointed, the most he's gonna have is 6.
Mhm.
okay? Can I get a motion?
So moved. Randy Block.
I'll second.
Okay, can I get a vote?
You can do it all in favor on this.
Oh, all in favor?
Yes.
Any objections? Okay, we're good. All right, I'm just going to skip over to the last one on the
No,
agenda. This is BOA case number 14-2023. The applicant is Susan Bruce Miller. The location is block 5.01, lot 12, 101 Old Croton Road. Applications for a D variant. And again, I can read the letter into the meeting. So this is again from Steve Gruenberg, dated November 2nd, 2023. Dear Taylor, this letter will confirm that my client's consent to the board's request to have the public hearing of the above application adjourned from the board's meeting tonight due to the lack of quorum to the board's December 7th, 2023 meeting. We would ask that an announcement be made at the start of the meeting tonight that the public hearing is being carried by the board without the need for further notice by the applicant. Please also accept this letter as my client's grant of an extension of time to the board until February 6, 2024. The board to act on this application. Thank you.
okay. Now, on this one, it was a little different, because in this one, 2 recusals, Roger and Cynthia,
Mhm.
which would have left only 4. That's not a quorum. And so we tried to scramble and borrow a planning board member, and that didn't go too well.
Well,
you
it
can't.
literally would, I would have been able to give her a day,
Right,
a whole day just to look at it.
Right.
That's even if she is able to come.
She was
right.
able to.
It wasn't
Yeah.
fair. to the planning board member who would be borrowed. And so with 4, he has no choice.
So, wait, time out.
For tonight, if he wanted to go
Right,
to.
right. But you can't borrow from the planning board for this application because the application is on the planning board.
No,
No,
no, it's here.
no. Miller application is in front of the Board of Adjustment.
Yes, I understand that.
Miller happens to be on the planning board.
Yes,
Okay, so he, right, he should have an attorney represent his interest. and he
Okay.
should have his wife
okay.
testify.
So are we saying, because I recuse myself because of,
Right.
should I not?
No, Miller is the applicant.
Yes,
You and Roger are working with him
yes,
on that other matter.
yes.
That, in my opinion, is
Okay,
an appearance of a conflict.
okay,
An appearance of bias, a reasonable member of the public. So the test is not whether you can keep an open mind, which I'm sure you could.
hmm
The test is whether what would a reasonable member of the public think if they had all the facts? Would they think that there could be a possibility? not
Okay,
the
okay.
certainty of bias. It can't be fanciful, but a possibility. So if the public knew that you and Roger were working with Miller on this ordinance thing, in my opinion, a reasonable member of the public would think, wait a minute. Chair and the vice chair
Yeah,
working with Miller on this ordinance thing, and then Miller's gonna have an application in front of the board, and you two guys aren't gonna be biased? Now, again, I know you and Roger, I know you wouldn't be,
hmm
but a reasonable member of the public who doesn't know you two
Mhm.
is presented with those facts, I think they would reasonably think
Okay.
you could be biased. That's why, so there's 2 separate issues. One is whether you guys have to recuse, in my opinion, you do. The other issue is, what does he do when he gets here? Well, if he was presenting to the planning board,
hmm
he would have to get his wife to do the testifying and
No, it's his son.
his whoever.
okay.
whoever. If he's here and you guys are recusing yourself, he's a member of the planning board, he's not a member of the board. If he wants to come here.
But your replacement is a member of the planning board.
If Steve doesn't show.
Okay, right, the replacement is a member of the planning board, so.
Was that the problem for us?
That's a conflict of interest, right?
But
The reason they have these conflicts is because they're on the subject.
Yeah.
What Cynthia is raising is an issue I didn't think about. You're gonna have a member of the planning board borrowed on the Board of Adjustment. Should Miller be making an appearance in front of the Board of Adjustment with the borrowed member? In my opinion,
No.
thank you for asking the question.
No.
No, he should have his wife and an attorney do the presentation. So he is not personally at the table making a presentation when a member of the planning board is sitting up on a dais.
Is he gonna do that?
I'm gonna tell him.
He didn't,
Okay.
I don't think he testified on the first
Yeah.
hearing.
he didn't. He was just in the audience.
He was in the audience and he's the owner and he did provide commentary because I thought he did, but
Listen,
Yeah, I think he did, like once.
because he's
Then
the
we'll
owner.
just advise him that he
right,
can't.
you're gonna advise him if he has
Yeah.
any issues to call me.
Yeah.
Okay, but you tell him that we discussed it tonight because, well, stop for a second, hold on. If this thing is continued to December, Steve Farcio will be here.
Yes, Steve-
Yeah,
That's why I
the
said
thing.
Steve they should come tonight and record it.
I understand, but.
And then,
Steve, I
Steve-
understand.
yeah,
Bloomberg just,
Cynthia,
yeah.
you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink.
I want to drown the guy.
Okay, so he decided,
Okay.
okay,
Oh, could you strike that from the recording? Okay.
the bottom line is, if Steve is here,
Mhm.
and you don't have to borrow from the planning board.
Yeah.
There's no problem whatsoever with Miller.
Yes,
testifying.
yeah.
You guys have to recuse.
Yes, okay.
either way, I will have the planning board member ready just in
Just in
case.
case.
Yeah,
That's
because,
that.
yeah, because then his
And
wife,
But you have to tell Mr. Miller that if we find ourselves in a situation where we do have to borrow the planning board member, he should not be in the room.
No attendance from you, sir.
And you can call me to discuss it,
okay,
okay?
Mhm.
So,
moving
my
on.
opinion, there's nothing wrong with this request, even though
Mhm.
you may have preferred it that they presented tonight,
Okay.
and then order a transcript, and then let Steve read it, but they didn't want to do that.
Nope.
So again, in my opinion, this request is reasonable, and I don't see anything wrong with granting it as it's written, but he's not asking here for a full complement, he's just asking for a form.
That would cost some money, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Randy Blunt.
so you're making the announcement carried without need for further notice, correct?
Yes, carried without further
And
notice.
again, was this the first hearing on this Miller application?
No.
Any other
Um,
public here on it?
What are you saying? Why are you saying that?
No, this is the first hearing on this Miller application.
It's a second application.
No. There was an initial application which proposed a second house.
Okay, so
This
he
application
so he
proposed-
pulled that application.
Correct.
Right.
Got it.
He withdrew that application, he submitted a new application. This is kind of deja vu all over again from the last meeting, right?
Yeah.
And an applicant wanting 2 houses on the property.
Mm-hmm.
The board, like they told the applicant 2 weeks ago, told Mr. Miller, yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. Why don't you try to go for an accessory apartment, put an addition on the house? That's what he's doing. He still needs
Yep.
to be variance, but now the policy issues are different.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I had Randy
And she said that.
and Lindsay second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Opposed?
None.
Okay, moving on. Third application for the evening, BOA case number 06-2022. Applicant is Nicholas Caracappa.
Why don't
Thank-
you come up to the table? Don't be freaked out
Location
by what
is
you just heard. I'm gonna
block-
give a nice explanation for you.
Block 37, Lot 2, 14 River Road. Application is for a D variance for expansion of a non-conforming structure. Good evening.
First of all, before let's get the 2 of you sworn in. Both of you stand up, please. Face our board stenographer, both raise your right hands. Do both of you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, can each of you identify yourself for the record? You can sit down, put your hand down. Identify yourself for the record and give your address. And you're the applicant, correct?
I am
Your name is?
Nicholas Caracap, 14 River Road, Raritan Township.
Jeff Vaccarella, Township Planner.
Okay, so,
Before you go any further, Nick, the whole time you can just look at me or Jackie, just because it's
right,
best if Jackie hears you.
Okay,
thank you.
no problem.
So, you just heard about the 5 members, right?
Yes,
You need a D variance, so you need a minimum of 5.
okay,
So my suggestion is going to be at the end of the presentation of the case, you'll get a sense from where the board's going on this. And if you're nervous that maybe one person isn't with you, then you're going to ask to have this continued to the next meeting so that another board member can read a transcript and become eligible to vote and get you up to 6. That's what the chair suggested that the last applicant should have done.
okay, understood. Everybody looks friendly, though. I don't think I'm gonna have any issue.
Now, just for the record, this application was submitted on, so the application is dated April 18, 2022. And for the record, I believe this application was heard, was it June 2nd, 2022? Is that
Correct.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, so technically, the first hearing session was June 2, 2022. Now it is November 2, 2023. So there's 2 ways of going about this. One is to say, this is the second hearing session, you amended the application. One is to say, I want you to start from scratch, but if you want to refer to the former one to explain the changes you've made, I think you can still do that whichever way you go. Does the board have a preference? I mean,
Not really. I mean, if you want to refer to what was before, I mean, I think you walked out and said, I'm going to reconfigure this.
Yeah.
And so however you want to talk through it, the only one who wasn't here was Lindsay. So,
And I will read into the record. She did sign her affidavit. She's read the transcript or listened to the tape recording from that meeting of June 2nd, 2022.
Tell you
So
what.
she's
tell
eligible.
you what,
If the,
Just to
ca-
make sure that you, if you want a record of what was before and what you're doing now, let's say the first hearing session on this application was June 2, 2022.
Mhm.
Substantial amendment was made. Now we're here for the board to consider the amended application. How's that?
Sounds great.
All right,
Okay,
go for it.
Cool. Okay. So you just want me to run through what I'm trying to do, accomplish?
sure.
Give you a brief overview. I mean, everybody's probably familiar with it to some degree, I would think.
I wasn't here.
So, a shed was constructed, well, first of all, my property, I'm located at 14 River Road. Everybody probably knows my house. You probably drive by it every day, just like everybody in town. I have 10 acres there. I border, the south branch of the Raritan River. And, back in 2022, maybe it was 2021, I received a notice from you guys that I didn't have approvals to build a shed that was constructed
So
on my.
you get a notice from these guys. You got a notice from that
From
guy,
that guy, yeah. So,
the zoning officer.
yeah, but he wasn't that. Tony was around.
Yeah, he's correct.
Oh, okay.
I was
Now
assistant.
Tony's in New Brunswick.
You got a notice from the prior zoning officer,
Yeah.
No, it was from,
but he was the
Yeah.
zoning inspector.
yeah, he got a notice from me. I wasn't the zoning officer at the time.
Okay, he was the zoning inspector at the time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So anyway, my father-in-law built this shed while I was away. I think I was on my honeymoon or something. And I came back and I'm just like, what's going on?
No good deed goes unpunished.
And we had talked about doing this, but he went ahead and started it.
He
while I
wanted to
was-
surprise you when you
Yeah,
came back from the honeymoon.
Exactly.
Surprise.
And it's too close to the river. I get that. It's within a buffer area. So it needs to be relocated. And instead of trying to get approval for where it's located now, because I thought that's not gonna happen, why would anybody approve that when I have 10 acres and it could be relocated anywhere? Doesn't make any sense.
Good thinking, by the way.
I decided, all right, let me just try to see if there's a spot where I can relocate it, where there wouldn't be any issues. So last time, I moved it outside of those buffer areas, up into the woods a little bit, closer to the house. And then came to find out that it still might be an issue because we might not know where potential wetlands may lie. So there was a concern that a wetlands delineation needed to be done in order to do so. And I was hesitant on wanting to do that. So my proposal now, instead of putting it where I had originally proposed, is to replace an existing chicken coop on my property with this shed that was built. So there's an existing structure there already. My thought is that since there's already a structure there, if I take that one out and put a new one, it wouldn't be any worse than what's there right now. It's slightly larger, but to me, it's very small amount. You can see it, it's actually outlined on the survey that I provided. If you can see the inside square, that's the existing chicken coop. And then the shed is drawn around it. So it only extends a little bit further. So with all this mess, I decided.
Jeff, quick question. The proposed shed location as reflected on the Boren and Boren location survey dated February 2022. Does that shed need any relief or does it fully comply?
The location does not require any relief. I would just ask if further testimony regarding the use of it
Sure.
and what the location is compliant.
The coop location, you're saying?
Yep, you're saying the coop location It's compliant. You don't need any variances, no nothing for that location,
I'm
but
not
you,
gonna talk about it anymore.
right. But he wants you to talk about, I know where he's going. You know what he wants to hear? We're not gonna have some business run out of that shed. It's gonna just be for residential storage or
Yeah,
whatever.
Airbnb, you guys ever hear of Airbnb?
For the
No,
record, that's a joke,
it
right?
is a joke.
It's not doing well.
I see that, I didn't buy a 10-acre property to have somebody living in my backyard. No, there will be no
Yeah, just so you
utilities.
know, I'm showing a picture of
Yeah,
the.
I
the
know, it
quote
looks like
shed.
it could be.
It looks like a cabin.
It does,
We're calling it a shed.
I know. Well, here's the real thing. So it was built at the time I was planning on having a child. I've since had a child. My father-in-law was building it as kind of like a little clubhouse for his future, because my father-in-law, he doesn't know how much longer he's gonna be able to build something like that. So that was the plan. He had built it for other grandchildren, similar structures.
So what you're saying is this is like a children's playhouse thing.
And a shed. I
And,
mean, the
and
plan was to put canoes and kayaks in it. Now that it's not right next to the river, I don't know that I'll be keeping canoes and kayaks
put
there.
it this way though, residential storage and residential children's playhouse,
Correct. I
right?
would agree.
Okay, so if the board ends up granting the whole application, a condition would be the shed can only be used for residential storage or, children's or kids, we'll say, we'll limit the children, kids playhouse.
Sounds great.
The porch is part of the new structure as well?
It is.
Yeah.
And no utilities at all.
Yes, I understand. Have you written this down, Tim?
Okay.
Okay.
Of the 13 items, what's relevant now, considering?
Hold on.
Yeah,
He started with the shed.
yeah, no. it's
That's
cool.
not the primary reason he's here.
No,
Okay, the primary reason he's here is the addition to the house, right?
That is, yeah, my primary reason.
Right, that's his primary reason for being, he cleared up a shed problem. So the addition to the house, as I understand it, it needs some sort of D variance. We have to determine if it's a D1 use variance or a D2 expansion of a lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming use variance, and I'll explain why and the difference. And it needs some C variances for both. Jeff, is that correct?
That's correct.
So what zone is your property located in?
O2.
Does O2 allow residential?
I don't think it does.
It doesn't. Jeff, is that correct?
That's correct. It does not.
Now, what do you know, or what does the applicant know about when the house was constructed? What year was the house constructed? And at the time the house was constructed, was a residential dwelling allowed on it? Because if a residential dwelling was allowed on the property at the time it was constructed, then the residential use is a lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming use, which would mean if he wants to expand it, he needs a D2 variance, which is a much easier variance to get than a D1 use variance, meaning that it's prohibited. So, do you know when the house was constructed?
1950.
Dana,
My
how do you know
records
that?
show 19 So I have the Core Logic report. Core Logic does some demographic that, I don't know, you guys probably use them for some things. That just lists it as 1950 is when it was built. I don't really know where it pulled this data from. I also have historical aerials that show in 1953. There's a structure
Okay, so
there.
hold up one second. Jeff, did you go to the tax assessor's office?
I did not for this. No, I did not.
Okay, so why don't we go, so we don't have to deal with where that data was pulled from. Why don't we go with those historic pictures? So can we take a 5-minute recess so we can look at what is that?
Yeah.
He submitted stuff to you or not?
I just pulled it up today
Can we take a
because
5-minute?
sure. Going to order? Okay, go ahead.
So during this little break we took, we've marked a historic aerial photo of the property as Exhibit A1. I've given one to Taylor for the file, and the applicant, you handed him out?
I did.
Okay, so everyone can see, and Jeff can confirm. Jeff, you see the house on this 1953 historic aerial?
Yes,
Okay, to you, that means that this house was constructed no later than 1953, correct?
that's correct.
And the board knows this, but just for the record, when was the first ordinance in the township adopted?
1957.
So, the first ordinance was adopted in 1957. This house was constructed
No.
prior to that.
Yes and
So
no.
on that basis alone, in my
Oh,
opinion, this dwelling is a lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming use. But let's go one step further. When the first ordinance was adopted in 1957, what was this property zone?
Residential
When did that residential zoning
Oh.
change?
in 1965.
And what did it change to?
Industrial.
So even if the dwelling wasn't constructed prior to the first ordinance, even if it was constructed anytime up to 1965, it still would be a lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming use, because at the time dwelling existed, the zoning allowed the dwelling. So because of that, the dwelling needs a D2 variance and not a D1. So I just want to read the test. There's some other stuff also.
So before you do that, just for clarity,
Sure.
can you mark where the house is? And it will be good for the exhibit anyway.
You know what? Mark it on Taylor's exhibit.
Also, yeah,
So
so
what-
that way it's totally clear. Thank you.
Yeah. So garage, right? Yeah.
No,
It's the one with the garage right next to the,
thank you.
Okay, so for the record, Exhibit A1, the historic aerial view of the property from 1953, the dwelling has now been circled in black pen on the board's copy. So before we talk, still some other stuff in the application. There's also C variance, bulk relief required. So Jeff, why don't you, before I read the D2 variance standard, why don't you explain, I'm looking at Jeff's memo, the second page, he says the following variances are required. He notes the D2 variance for expanding the non-conforming residential use in the O2 zone. And then number B, letter B, he notes a C variance from ordinance section 296-131, schedule 1, for encroaching into the front yard setback. The proposed front yard setback is 74.4 feet for the principal structure and 12.67 feet for the garage. Jeff, what is the required setback?
100 feet
100 feet for a dwelling?
for a principal, yes, for a principal
Why
structure.
would that be? Because, oh, this is the O2 zone.
Yes, so to,
What would happen if this were in a residential zone? What's
it would be 50 feet.
right?
okay, so if this was actually in the residential zone, his setback would comply, but it's because the house is in the O2 zone that he actually needs a front yard variance, is that correct?
That's correct for the single family dwelling, yes,
And the additions.
and the addition.
And then tell me about the garage, the detached garage. What's the setback requirement for a detached garage if it's in a residential zone? And what's the requirement in the O2 zone?
To be in the front yard, it would have to be 50 feet. And behind, or in this case, have room in front of the house. So if the house was 70 feet, it would have to be, it can be in front, but it'd have to comply with the principles.
So
Now-
residential,
Yes,
Does that apply whether it's residential or O2?
O2, it would have to meet, yes, same, they would have to meet the principal structure.
When was the garage constructed?
It's on the picture.
Did the applicant know when the garage was?
I think it was constructed at the same time.
It's on the picture.
Well, it's not in the picture.
It is.
Oh, it is in the picture. Where is
Yes.
it in the picture?
You can see it. You can see it.
Ah, it is. Okay. That, the garage structure. is a lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming structure, and therefore, in my opinion, it would qualify to stay, but if you want to make it so he never has a problem again, you can grant a C1 hardship variance on the basis that when it was built, it complied. That's a classic hardship for the garage. The C variance for the, actually, same classic hardship for the dwelling and the garage, because they were both there. The only other thing he could do in the O2 zone would be to knock the building down and rebuild to comply. That doesn't seem like that's a reasonable thing to require of someone. So classic hardship variances for both dwelling and garage. Talk about the fencing stuff last. Let's do the D2 variance. So the board has the power, I'm reading from my crib sheet on the D2 variance. The board has the power to grant D2 variances to permit expansions of lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming uses pursuant to NJSA 40:55D-70 small d paren 2 end paren. Quote, in particular cases and for special reasons, end quote. Like, this is the language for every single D variance, but as you all know, court cases have created different standards. So unlike, so a D2 variance, just like a D1 variance, the court says that the promotion of the general welfare is the zoning purpose that most clearly amplifies the meaning of special reason. The benefit to the general welfare from a non-inherently beneficial typical use like this one derives not from the use itself, but from the development of a site but from development of a site in the community that is particularly suited for the very enterprise proposed. So I'm going to ask the applicant, can you explain to the board why you think this property is particularly suited to the additions?
I think it's suited due to the fact of where it's located. Neighboring properties are much larger size. It kind of doesn't really fit into that area. I think that not only will it fit in more, it will add value and add to the look. And
Okay, so what you're saying is it's particularly suited because the house already exists and it's existed in 1953.
absolutely,
And you got the smallest house in the area.
yeah,
And again, apart from knocking the house down and rebuilding 100 feet away, which is unreasonable, if you do these additions, you're going to actually make your house fit in better with the other houses in the area, correct?
correct,
And you're saying that once you do that, you're not going to just improve your own property, it's going to improve everything in the area, correct?
yes, correct.
And so those are his special reasons. And the board also has to ask itself, can it grant a variance if it wants to without substantial detriment to the public good? That's property values of other properties. Your answer is you're not going to decrease them. If anything, it's going to increase them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And can the variance be granted without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of the master plan and zoning ordinance? And what you're testifying, what you testified before, as I understand it, is, listen, my house is in the O2 zone. So this is not like I have an industrial building, which is going to be too close to the road, which without, that you'd have a hard time saying that that wouldn't impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. But you have a residence.
Yes,
And if you applied the residential setback standards, it would comply.
correct,
So there's no substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the master plan and zoning ordinance because your use of the property is a dwelling, correct?
correct.
Okay, so that's his case on the dwelling and the additions to the dwelling and the garage. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jeff. What is left in your report as open? I saw something about fencing and there's a bunch of other stuff.
Regarding the variance relief? Regarding the variance relief or just
Well,
general comments.
yeah, so C and D. C in your report says a C variance from section 296-141 for the installation of a fence within 100 feet from the top of the bank of a river, but I thought on this proposed plan, oh, he's moved it back 25 feet. Okay.
25.
All right, so you're gonna have to, you and the applicant and Jeff, let's address that to the board. And then the other one is the C variance from section 296-141 for disturbing soil within 75 feet of a stream. So those are the last two issues, and that one is for Jeff and the applicant to discuss. So Jeff, why don't you start and then get the applicant's take on things?
So with the privacy fence is in a compliant height, but the location of it is in 25 feet from the top of bank of the creek and the ditch.
Yeah,
Is it-
let's ask this way. You pulled it back 25 feet from the top of the bank. What's the purpose of the fence you're putting in? And the reason I'm asking is because whatever you say, the next question is going to be, can that purpose still be fulfilled if you pulled it back 100 feet rather than 75 feet, so you wouldn't need the variance?
Yes, I actually pulled it back 25 feet because that's what I thought the variance was. So I was trying to
All
comply
right, so put it this way, if you know that the variance is
100 feet.
100 feet,
Will I make it 100 feet?
well, you're making 100 feet back from the stuff, so you don't need the variance. What's the purpose of the fence?
I mean, I was going around the whole property because honestly, somebody ratted me out on this.
Oh, you didn't really want to look at it anymore.
And I just wanted to anger them if they were gonna take a look at my application. Honestly, was I really gonna even build this thing? You know how much money it would cost to put this
Yeah,
stupid thing?
so put it this way, do you really want a fence? And do you
Not
really want to spend
The
all that
only
money?
The only fence I want is between me and lot 3. And I'll keep it 100 feet. off of
Okay,
it.
so let's make that a condition. That wipes out that variance, so hold on. I'm not gonna have the condition say it only can be on lot 30. The condition is gonna say that any fencing you put up
Has to be 100 feet.
has to be 100 feet,
That's
from
great.
there.
That's, yeah, thank you.
okay? And then you don't need, at that
Come
point, you
back
don't
if
need
I
any
just
relief
change
from
my
them for any
mind.
fence. That's
Yeah,
between you and
that's
the
great.
zoning officer.
Perfect, thank you.
Full fencing back 100 feet from top of banks of stream. Fence height applies. Fence location will comply after revisions. Condition, okay. Now, so Jeff, the C variance from section 296-141 for disturbing soil, that's the one, as I understand it, what you're saying is because this shed slash cabin was already installed, it's got to be moved, and that's going to be a soil disturbance, and basically, your recommendation is the board grant the soil disturbance variance to allow him to move it, provided that he do some kind of restoration. So why don't you talk about that?
That would be correct. Were any landscaping disturbed as part of the process or in moving the structure?
In other words, what does it take to move this thing? You
You
lift
could have
it,
lifted it.
If, I don't even know that I definitely can. If I can't, look, I'm just gonna remove it. I'm hoping that's not the case. But, so what's gonna be left after I move it is gonna be a couple holes from where I put in, the footings for the structure. So I would fill those all in with
I'm not trying
dirt
to,
unless you tell me otherwise. Tell
I'm
me
not
why
gonna-
you want me
I don't want to add to your cost. I know two ways you can move this thing.
Okay,
One way is you bring in not a crane,
yeah.
because that's, that could be up to like $5,000 a day for the crane.
Uh-huh.
But you can bring in a piece of construction equipment, basically rubber tired with a hook. It looks like your father-in-law did a heck of a nice job with that thing. And take construction grade nylon straps under it, put the hook, and just drive the thing, be located plop it down after you put the new holes for posts.
So you're saying it's like a small crane?
It's not called a crane. What's the name of this
Backhoe?
piece of equipment?
No.
Is it a backhoe?
It's bigger than a backhoe, smaller than a crane, not an excavating machine. That place on, right on the highway on the way in, Fusco.
Fusco?
Yeah, when I drove by it tonight, I saw the piece of equipment and I said,
Okay,
that's what he needs.
okay.
Okay? That's a little bit more expensive, but that's the easiest way of doing it, the hard way of doing it.
So Jeff, all you're saying is that when he moves this structure, you want to ensure, you want to provide the variance so then he can restore the underlying property, the
Restore it
ground.
to the best way possible.
Does he-
Environmentally, it should.
Can
be
he just fill it in or does he have to remove the cement?
Yeah, he's gonna remove the posts and fill the holes.
Yeah,
And what Jeff is saying, he's suggesting you grant a C2 variance
Mhm.
to allow the disturbance
So he can move it.
so we can move it and
Okay.
restore the property to what it was.
Okay.
and were any trees removed when, no clearing?
No, there was already clearing there, and that's why that was a spot that was chosen.
And Jeff, for the other ones, for your other items, do you want to go over those? About the septic
So put it
and,
this way, Jeff, in your opinion, is there still a need for a wetland delineation, or because of where he's moving the stuff, can the board take care of this without him having to do a wetland delineation?
Typically, with all properties, it's required. He's moving it to a compliant location that there's probably not any isolated wetlands or wetlands in general, so.
So you're all right with no condition requiring a wetlands delineation, correct?
Correct.
Anything else in the report?
If you could just talk about if you had any contact with the health department regarding the well or septic or.
I have not yet. I'm happy to and do whatever that entails. I know that the addition is on top of the existing well, but the septic should be okay, right? I mean, I'm not adding any bedrooms, just adding a half bathroom with the addition.
Yeah, the capacity should be okay, but I think we were more worried about the location of it, but. That was all.
The septic or the well?
why would we be concerned about the septic? Is it too close to the new structure?
It could be.
It could be.
So put it this way.
If
my
you look at that
suggestion there-
paper I gave Jim,
It's gonna,
My suggestion there is the board, if once the board wants to grant these variances, you have a condition.
Yeah.
The condition is that he's got to have approval from the health department. If he gets approval from the health department, no problem. If he doesn't, then he's going to have to deal with it.
That's fair enough.
So you really just have to take the application down to the board, the health department and review it with them?
yes.
Okay.
So we asked the questions.
That's on Route 12, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So can I just, you think the septic's too close to the new addition structure?
He doesn't know.
It's not,
That's what he's
Because
saying.
so here, this is the septic here, which the existing structure, if I'm building out here.
but you're also right here.
Oh, that's the
Yeah,
part you're worried
that's the
about.
part.
Okay, that's just an outside covering. That's not like an enclosed area, just so you're aware. That's just outside.
Just tell that to Jackie.
That's just, the one in front, that little addition area in front is just gonna be a covered stairway to the entrance of the house. I just wanna have like a little covered area, because right now I have nothing. I just walk up to my door and rain falls on my head. I was thinking we could, have a covering or some sort of, dress it up, make it
What
look
is that?
nice.
It's called a,
awning of some sort.
No.
Covered entry.
Blank.
Like a porch?
No, it's something
A
else.
portico. Like a portico. So the portico, if you cantilever the portico off the house, it wouldn't impact the septic system. If you had to put a foundation in for the portico, it might.
It might.
So if the board has a condition that you got subject to health department approval
Okay. Yeah,
of
yeah, that's
location of
fine.
structures vis-a-vis the septic, if you have a problem there, it costs you more, but if you cantilever it, you can get your goal and satisfy them.
Understood. Thank you.
Jeff,
And
anything
the-
else?
The only open item is as-built survey as a condition.
Oh, yes. For the
Post-construction.
post-construction.
Yeah, just to, that would make, yeah, after you're all done, you submit it, the condition says you gotta submit an as-built survey to prove that the stuff's where you said it was gonna be.
Showing the shed being removed, the new location,
Oh, yeah.
additions and everything, yeah.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Sometimes when we approve something, the construction company makes a mistake.
Ah. And you just want to confirm that everything's where it was. supposed to
That's
be.
right.
Got it.
Anything else?
Anything else?
That's it.
Any questions from the board? Just making note that there's no one here from the public
Or online?
or online.
Oh, the board standard condition says if they grant this variance, which it looks like they're going to, you have a year to apply for permits and a year to do construction. So some people, then they have to come in for extensions. If you don't think you can do it a year and a year, why don't you ask for 2 years plus 2 years? 2 years to pull your construction permit, 2 years to complete the construction, even if you think you're gonna do it faster.
Yeah, that sounds.
You
great.
want it, you want 2 plus 2, right?
Great idea, yes.
Okay,
I was gonna say that.
all right. If there's nothing else, we'll close for deliberation.
Sure. Can we go first?
Sure, please, thank you.
So I'm gonna support this application. Some of the reasons for that, obviously, you're gonna move the shed where it belongs and it's gonna be used strictly for playhouse or recreation and maybe some storage. Right? Yes. And then the big item about addition is you've shown us the proof that this house was built either on or prior to 1953. At that time,
Prior to 1957,
prior to 1957. The map is 1953, I'm assuming that the house was built before that.
Yeah, sure.
And that it, since it was prior to 1957, it was a residential zone. So given that, you should use the setbacks and other requirements for the residential, you're meeting most of the setbacks. The other is from a public good point of view, your house is the smallest in the area. So with these additions you're looking for, not only it's gonna help you, but it's gonna improve. You're gonna get basically, it will fit in better in the neighborhood. And it will improve the value of your house, but also of the neighborhood.
Yes,
Yes. So given those reasons, I would agree. Approve.
thank you.
I would just add to what Russell said that I agree with everything he said. But I just want to state that there's no impact or impairment to the Raritan Township Master Plan. So I would be in favor of this also.
I want to make sure I do this right. I'm for this application. Everybody so far has said exactly what I wanted to say. It's going to improve your property and make your values higher, so your neighbors should like you.
I agree. Thank you.
Based upon the fact that you've made some changes, which solves a few of the problems, plus the conditions that you're setting as a board, I certainly will support.
Thank you.
I'm also in support. I think that it's good that you're putting efforts into to raise your own end. capacity as the others around you. So with all the.
Thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve this application with the conditions that we have mentioned? And if John wants to read them off, he can. If not, we're good.
So moved. Randy Block.
I'll second.
Jim Ferraro, second. Can I get a vote, please?
Vice Chair, Miss Cynthia Schaefer,
Yes?
Mr. Randy Block,
Yes.
No,
Mr.
you got, no, you got to get louder than that.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Jim Ferrero,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem, Ms. Russell Domji,
Yes.
Ms. Lindsay Cool, Brengel.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow,
Thank you very much.
That was easy. I don't know what
Okay.
happened, but
I can tell
Is-
John was in a very good mood today.
he must have been. Last time.
Okay,
listen, you revised the plan to comply where you could comply, and all you were left with is things that were impossible, basically not to comply with.
Good luck, buddy.
is there any other business for the board this evening? Randy, you're out of your seat.
It's cold, so.
Randy, you're out of your seat. Okay, if there's no, there's no, there's no other board business before the board, can I get an adjournment?
Cynthia, can you call up Roger? Have him talk to the mayor about the.
Yeah. Sure, no problem. Okay, can we get adjournment? All in favor?
Hi.
Anybody opposed, staying around?
Me.
Okay, okay, Randy's staying this evening.
Breaking up too early for Randy.
Adjourned.